Okay, this is GamerBlave, and we're back with True Remembrance. And if you missed the last video, that was the prologue, or the preface, or whatever you want to call that, and it was really my first experience with a visual novel, so it was an interesting experience, and it was kind of an interesting introduction to this story. We have a lot of interesting things going on here. We met two characters. Black Iris, who I believe is the character that we're seeing here on the right, and Law, who's the character we're seeing on the left. Unless, of course, I am very, very confused, which is possible. I know we're in a world here where suicide has been the leading cause of death due to a problem called the dolor, and these characters are in they're in a town that has been created, I guess, instantiated rather to deal specifically with people who are affected by the dolor, which I guess is this profound sadness, which are these bad memories, and there are people here that are tasked with the nemenicide, I think that's the way to pronounce it, and they're tasked with getting rid of these bad memories or these things in the past that are just overwhelming. And there seems to be something systemic that the psychological community can't really put their finger on. So, that's kind of where we are. That's kind of the backdrop that's been set here. And we're coming here into chapter 1, where the story is officially beginning, as it were. So we really haven't really done anything except for establish the scene here. So we got a lot of interesting stuff to find out. But we do have a nice little world here to discover our characters and find out what this narrative is, where it's going to lead us. So here we go with chapter 1. My new guest was off in the corner, staring away with eyes downcast at empty space, as if there were some way to trace the intricate patterns of her bewilderment in the air between us. This wasn't surprising at all. Every guest I'd ever met had reacted this way upon arrival in town. They all acclimatized in short order, of course. Rather, they were made to, in one way or another. But Law here was still crying. This was bad, really bad. I'd never seen a guest in such pitiful shape before. Slowly, as if my gaze were a burden too heavy for her slight shoulders to bear, she lifted her head and locked eyes with me. Then she murmured, "Don't mind me, I'll be fine." And sure enough, there were still tears flowing from her eyes, but her facial expression was otherwise totally neutral. Not sad, but definitely not happy either. I've had guests say that to me before. Usually it's because they have a sorrow so deep that they themselves are numb to the fact. Oh, really? Perhaps, but I agree with you. You'll be fine. Relax. You're my guest. We'll have you better in no time at all, I'm sure. Law just quirked her lips vaguely in response. So she doubted that I could do anything for her. I wondered how I could ever turn her cynicism into faith, but I kept my mouth shut. It didn't matter. Okay, so I was confused I'll admit, and this actually makes a little bit more sense here, this interaction here. For some reason, I was under the impression that both of them were these nemenicides, or I'm not sure if that's actually the correct term for the people in the profession of performing the nemenicide. But I guess Law is someone who is suffering from the dolor, and Black Iris is someone who's performing the duty upon her. So I was confused there in the last video, and then I guess I was perpetuating that in my commentary. So I think that this conversation here is straightening that out for me. So, and that wasn't really making sense why she was, crying throughout all of the interaction up until this point. Whether she believed in me or not, I had a job to do. Right, I was her guide. Now wasn't that a hoot? The hospitality industry really didn't suit me one bit. I'd have been much happier to stay at home doing nothing all day. All right, Law, go ahead and take your luggage up to your room. I'll be down here making dinner if you need anything. I take it you'll be hungry at some point. Law nodded silently and then walked upstairs with her bags. I gave the place my standard once-over. Old place, all right. Fortunately, it was far better built than I'd originally thought. Unfortunately, it was far more cramped than I'd originally thought as well. I stood in the kitchen and wondered what to make for dinner. The refrigerator was well stocked, so they'd make sure of that. Not that it really mattered. If supplies ran low, I could always go buy more. This was all being paid for by the higher-ups anyway. So what would Law want to eat? This too happened to be part of the job, but that didn't mean that I had to like it. I mean, what a joke! Cooking wasn't exactly my forte, and I hated picking up after someone else. If it weren't for the fact that I was a nemenicide, I would never have put up with this nonsense. Well, stew is a pretty safe choice, right? Right, nothing to it. I opened the refrigerator, plucked out some meat and vegetables, and got down to work. I just started boiling some water when I heard Law come back downstairs. I turned around and, well, the face of a normal person, or the face a normal person makes when confronted with that awful tangle of noise and assorted animal entrails called Christian death metal. That was the exact expression she had plastered to her face. That is an interesting expression there if he's actually not listening to that. So that's just kind of an interesting way to put that. Something the matter? No, not at all. Great, now she was blushing. And what was I supposed to do? Read her mind? If there's something on your mind, I'd rather you told me. See, when you get worried, I get worried. I'm not worried about anything. I see. So much for that approach. Well, whatever. I had better things to do. Like make this stew. Anything you don't like to eat? None. Don't care for some things. So in other words, there are some things you don't like to eat. Great. Man, I wasn't getting anywhere today, was I? You're not very nice. I get that a lot. So what don't you eat? Carrots. Carrots, eh? That was pretty cute, actually, in its own way. A half smile rose unbidden to my lips, but then Law glared at me, and that was that. Okay, fine. No carrots then. Anything else? No. Need anything? Thank you, but I've got things under control. Just have a seat, relax, and I'll have dinner ready soon. I couldn't very well have my guest cook after all. Law shot me a disappointed look, but then shrugged and walked out of the kitchen. Okay, all I had to do now was let the stew simmer on its own for a while, so I poked my head out of the kitchen to check up on how my guest was doing. Or not. She was just sitting on a chair, so motionless that she might have been mistaken for a wax doll. Her hands were clasped neatly on her lap, and her eyes were sharp and focused straight ahead. So she'd been like this the entire time. Didn't that get really tiring after a while? Law? There's no need to be so tense. Come, loosen up. You're one of us now. Until her psyche corrosion disappeared, that was. I couldn't really say when that would happen, though. Could be a week from today. Could be 3 months from today. I'd heard that some exceptional cases even took years. Not tense, it's just... Before she could finish her sentence, her belly made an unhappy, empty sound. This explained everything, kind of. I take it you're hungry. Law just blushed and glared at me. She must have seen how hard I was trying to contain myself. But the thing was, no matter what my instincts told me, I couldn't just laugh. There were tears in her eyes again. Whether that was due to the dolor, embarrassment, or chagrin was immaterial. I wasn't about to make a girl cry. Black Iris. Wait just a bit longer, okay? I've got a delicious stew coming right up. But by this time, Law was already staring pointedly out the window, ignoring me. It was a simple meal, stew, bread, salad, but Law was just wolfing it down as if it were the most delicious meal she'd ever had. I did have to wonder, though, did famous chefs get to feel this warm, fuzzy feeling deep down inside all the time? I would imagine that, I haven't made very many meals that people are very satisfied with, but, every now and again, I have had the privilege of cooking for some people, and it is really nice to feel like your food is appreciated. So I have got to experience that before, and it's nice. I'm certainly not a famous chef by any stretch of the imagination, but just there is a simple satisfaction in knowing that someone is appreciating your cooking. I don't get that feeling very often, and I'm not a very good cook. But that being said, it is a special feeling, just the fruits of your labor, and to have that appreciation expressed is also nice. I stopped eating altogether and focused on Law. Maybe it was a trick of the light, but I could have sworn that she almost looked happy. First time I'd seen her that way in all the short time I'd known her. Stop staring. Hard to eat that way. Oh, sorry about that. Now, this is another aside, actually. I do apologize for that, but in the first video, before we'd actually seen Black Iris, or maybe I didn't even really realize this, and, once again, I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, although there's no voice acting in this, so I don't know if there's an official pronunciation guide somewhere or anything like that. But the character Black Iris, and I'm not entirely positive about this because there are very many androgynously drawn characters in in anime and manga and all of that stuff. So, but I was under the impression that Black Iris, maybe it was just because of the name. I would have to go back and look to see if there was anything particularly mentioned. But when I wrote in my notes in the last session, I wrote Black Iris female. But, I mean, Black Iris definitely looks male here. And a couple of pages back, you know, he said I wasn't going to make a girl, well, I'm saying he. But Black Iris, the character, said I wasn't going to make a girl cry. So that also, that's kind of a masculine thing to say. So, you know, female, I'm just going to put a couple of question marks there now, because frankly, I'm not entirely convinced, based on the look and that speech there, I'm not entirely convinced that Black Iris is female. I'm starting to think that this character is male. Oh, sorry about that. Am I weird? Huh? Am I weird? Why do you keep staring at me? Oh, no, you're not strange. I just kind of spaced out, that's all. Bad habit of mine. You certainly do eat a lot, that's all. Oops. I just told a girl that she ate a lot. How was I going to get out of this one? Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it makes me happy to see you eat see you eat your fill. Wow, it's kind of hard to read that when it's all together like that. Right, real smooth. But Law just nodded warmly and smiled. I felt a rush of relief and suspicion all at once. I was bad enough at social interactions as it was, but girls were headaches of a totally different magnitude, and this one? Yeah. Alright, that's pretty much the nail in the coffin right there. Gee whiz. Okay. I'm gonna just put a little note here. Black Iris, male. Okay. That's a very interesting name for a male there too. By the end of dinner, Law had just about lost her air of bewilderment, although I couldn't tell whether it was for real or just another brave front. Not that I was in much better shape. Well, I was pretty used to this job by now. The first couple of days with a new guest were always a delicate phase. Best to end the day early and get a good night's sleep, so we'd both be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed come the morrow. Law, I'll be doing dishes down here, so why don't you go ahead and take a shower and go to bed? There should be a bathroom at the end of the corridor. I started to stand, but Law just sat there and stared at me, as if there was something she wanted to say but couldn't quite articulate. Oh, right. You have my word that I won't peep. So go ahead. I'm not worried about that. It's the room. The room? There's only one bed. Oh, so this must have been why she was so uptight before dinner. Totally understandable, although that didn't stop me from sighing. I mean, all right, now what? Come to think of it, I'd never been assigned a female guest before. They always made sure you got someone of the same sex. Well, at least up until now. What a headache. Law continued to stare at me, but there was something helpless lurking in her eyes now. It wouldn't be so hard to make that strong facade of hers crumble into dust now, if I wanted to. And, I kinda wanted to, you know, as a joke or something. Shall we sleep together? She instantly flushed red as a beet. Her lips fluttered open and shut, like those of a goldfish out of water. This continued for a while, and then she finally managed to stammer. No, thanks. I'll just sleep on the floor. Great. Now she looked like she was going to cry again. That was a joke. There's a sofa in the living room, so I'll just sleep there. You go ahead and take the bed. After all, I wasn't about to make her sleep on the floor. The sofa looked nice and comfy, and it wasn't as if I particularly cared. I'd slept in far less comfortable places than that before I'd taken this job. You're taller than I am. You'll cramp. I'll take the sofa. Oh, great. She really was a good girl, and a super stubborn one to boot. Just what was I supposed to do with her? First of all, it's not bad for me. Second of all, even if it were, I wouldn't care, so there's no need for you to worry about it. But what are we going to, Are we going to sleep together after all? I have no objections if that's what you want. She flushed red as a beet again. Nothing to it. All I had to do was play this out, and she'd have to yield. At least, that's what I thought, until she just sort of quietly nodded. That is, I wasn't prepared for this. Law? You don't just say okay to something like this. What are you going to do if I try something? And what are you going to do? Rape me? Oh, geez. No, but that's not the point. What if someone saw us, got the wrong idea or something? Imagine the rumors. I was sounding like some kind of preachy old man now. So this was what I'd been reduced to. Just wonderful. What the hell was wrong with me today? You won't do anything to hurt me. I trust you. She what? Anyway, look, you happen to be my guest. So you take the bed and I'll take the sofa. That's the rule, and so long as we're here, we can't break it. I hadn't wanted to play this card. I was supposed to be her guide, not her overseer. I couldn't just order her around like this, but in the face of such stubbornness, I didn't think I had a choice. She looked at me as if she wanted to make an objection, but then she slowly nodded. She stood up without a word after that and began walking toward the bathroom. Oh man, now I was all worn out. I had almost finished washing the dishes when Law suddenly reappeared in the kitchen. She'd apparently been there for a while, watching me quietly, but it wasn't until I caught the faint and intoxicating smell of floral shampoo wafting from her just-washed hair that I became aware of her presence. Yes? No, it's nothing. Good night, Black Iris. There was the gentlest hint of a smile on her face as she turned heel and walked out of the kitchen. I stood still and listened for a long time after that, until I was sure that she'd tucked herself in and gone to sleep. What a strange girl. Strange, but not bad at all. Every time I thought of what a pain tomorrow was going to be, that bashful good night kept popping into my head. In the end, I couldn't help but smile. So she'd left me with no choice but to do well for her sake. Again. The next morning I was startled awake by an awful crashing sound. Interesting. I'd never been woken up this way before. I allowed myself a deep sigh, and then I got up off the sofa. Law's back was turned to me when I found her. So I said, "Good morning. An early riser, I see," and almost succeeded at suppressing a grin when she jumped in surprise. Good morning." But then I looked down, and the sight completely succeeded at wiping the smirk off my face. There was a familiar-looking kettle on the floor, and a spreading dark puddle that had to be the remnants of yesterday's stew. How did it come to this? See, stew for breakfast, kettle boiled over, went to take it off, stuff burned, and, Okay, so that explained a couple of things, the peculiar smell, for one thing, and the uncharacteristic warmth of the house for another. I looked over to the stove, and sure enough, it was lit and burning bright. Then I had the following sequence of thoughts. 1. Man, this is weird. 2. I certainly didn't build that fire. 3. So she must have. And 4. Man, this is weird. Not bad at all, actually. Ever since I became a nemenicide, I always lived alone. There was this stray kitten who'd invited herself into my life for a while, but obviously cats can't light stoves or build fires. And of course, she didn't stick around forever. One day I woke up and she was gone. You didn't get scalded or anything, I see. That's a relief. I'm not mad at you or anything, so there's no need to apologize. I'm so sorry. Wait, didn't I just tell her not to apologize? After that, I started clearing the mess up, but Law wasn't having any of that. Okay, fine, whatever. So I figured we'd do it together, but she wouldn't have any of that either. So in the end, she stubbornly insisted on cleaning the mess up all by herself. That'd be fine with me. I would definitely be okay with that. After the kitchen was all spick and span, we broke fast with some pastries. Let's head out once we're finished eating. Any particular place you want to go? This was how the job worked. As her guide, I would show her around town. And as she grew more and more comfortable with her life here, the more opportunities I would have as her nemenicide to erase the memories that had so corroded her psyche. But the thing was, I really didn't like doing any of this. Not that it mattered. Hell, it was my job. I didn't have a choice in the matter. Oh, it wasn't as if I was bad at it. Quite the contrary. I was quite efficient both as a guide and as a nemenicide. I'd had 2 years of rigorous training in both to thank for that. That was mandatory for licensure, and I'd passed with flying colors. Really, the only reason I hated this part of my job was because I simply hated walking around outside. I mean, what was the point? Up to you. You are my guide, yes? Law looked up from her glass of milk to briefly flit her eyes at me. I had thought that she would say something like that, but still, that bothered the hell out of me. Now I really wanted to let out a sigh. All right, let's go. Best to take your coat with you. It's cold out, you know. Law nodded, and then undraped her government-issue topcoat from her chair. We walked out the door and into our frozen town. She trailed me by a few paces. The streets were deserted. In defiance of the day star's wan advance, the shadows beat long tattoos on the snow-choked eaves. There were a little under 1,000 licensed nemenicides here, and each one of us had a guest. Then there were governmental personnel, oh yes, and the people who had special permission to set up businesses in town. Too few people, too many ghosts. That was the problem with this place. The Dolor was a pandemic. The wait list for the nemenicide protocol ran into the hundreds of pages. There just weren't enough of us to go around. Law was gazing about the storefronts and houses. What was it that she saw? All I could see was an awkward clod of brick and ice and ruin, congealing out of slushy asphalt. Now, as I continued to walk along, she stopped to look at something, then started, then stopped to stare at something else entirely, then started again, and so on. Naturally, quite a gap arose between us. I thought for a second about waiting and matching pace with her, but it was far more fun to just watch her antics, so I let her be. "Black Iris, where are we going?" she asked as she caught up to me, her feet thudding on the icy sidewalk and her breath painting short-lived clouds on the air about us. Let's see. How about some nice, delicious coffee? There's this place I know on 6th Street, so let's take the trolley from here. What? You heard me right. Don't tell me you've never ridden one before. I haven't. That struck me as more than a little odd. Other than on foot, there was no other real method of transportation around here, and our trolley system was so good anyway that no one really minded. The other cities of our country had public transit systems that were at least as well developed as ours. That's how normal people got around. But Law here had been chauffeured for all her life. Apparently her family must have been very rich, or very important, or both. As I stopped to think about this, Law took the opportunity to sprint past me toward the station. So she could be this lively at times, eh? Fascinating. However, since her small figure was already receding into the horizon, I was going to have to cut my reverie short. A smile came to my lips unbidden, and I began to walk again. We got off the trolley at the 6th Street station and headed towards our destination. Law, of course, continued to make her frequent investigatory stops, and in this case, it was entirely understandable. Our house was on 8th Street. The end of town was mainly private residences, but 6th, well, it was the closest thing we had to a shopping mall around these parts. And Law seemed intent on examining every single piece of merchandise in every single display window we encountered. Our destination, by the way, was not on 6th proper, but on a back street a block or so away. Its door was unadorned, but for a nameplate that simply read, AROMA. Let me write that down. AROMA. 6th Street. Gotta try to remember the details here. As we opened the door and walked in, a chime rang out, and soon thereafter, so did a casual voice. Welcome. Hey, wait a second. Why, if it isn't Black Iris, long time no see, man. Well, if the other clues had not pretty much cemented it, that is really a done deal right there. You know, I'd say for the most part, you wouldn't call a female character man. So, you know, let's just put that debate to bed right there. Okay, so we got that taken care of. I raised a hand in casual response. This proprietor here was one of the few acquaintances I had, you see. Been out of town or something? I haven't seen you around these parts in forever, you know. No, I've been here the whole time. What did you do? Barricade yourself in your apartment? That's not good, yo. Oh, I got it. Don't tell me, you... My acquaintance's flood of sarcasm suddenly went dry when he spotted the girl who was standing behind me. Actually, it was more like Law was hiding behind the folds of my greatcoat and scoping out the cafe's interior. Got a girlfriend? At least he had the good grace to manage a strained smile. Law, on the other hand, reacted with no grace at all. She startled, flushed red as a beet, and began to shake her head violently. Fascinating. I let her go for a bit longer until I became distinctly afraid that she might very well shake her head clear off her shoulders. This is my guest. Okay, so I've noticed that they are using guest with capital G, so that is evidently, you know, that is like an official, that's got to be an official term for that. It's not like a, that's not just, you know, what he was saying. They're definitely, that's the, that would be known to him that is what a nemeticide is assigned, is considered a guest, I guess. That's what I'm going for here. I'm losing my capacity to express with the English language here. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to get out, is that is a proper noun there. Okay, anyway. I see. Right. No way a cute little thing like this would shack up with an oddball like you, right? What was I thinking, man? This was insulting, but it also happened to be true, so I couldn't really say anything. I had Law sit at the counter, and then took a seat next to her. Welcome. The name's Rook, and the honor's all mine. Don't you be forgetting me now. Okay, little lady? Okay, Rook, cafe worker. I'm not gonna, I don't know if that's, if he owns the place or if he just works here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just say worker. He even managed a sly wink at Law with that last sentence. Smooth, man, really smooth. Too smooth for me to want to imitate, as a matter of fact, if you know what I mean. Law must have been as dumbstruck as I was, as she took a very long time to answer. Law, charmed, I think. She then bowed politely, too politely almost. A look of surprise flashed across Rook's face, and then he burst out laughing. Oh man, have we got a bona fide cutie here. Hey, Lil Law, how old are ya? Rook asked as he leaned over the counter and grinned. I sighed inwardly. See, this was just like him. He was like a dog with a bone whenever something interested him. My polar opposite, in other words. Law, of course, was squirming uncomfortably in her seat by now. Obviously, this attention was unwanted. I sighed, outwardly this time, and turned to face Rook. If you know what's good for you, you will stop harassing my guest, please. I'm not harassing her at all, man. I'm just really interested in her, that's all. What's wrong with getting to know her a bit? Nice and personal, huh? He does have a pretty creepy face going on here. Fine, have it your way. Just stop glaring at me like that, man. Rook shrugged vaguely, as if to say, you're damn scary when you glare. Law, meanwhile, was sighing with relief now that her interrogation was over. Did you come for lunch? It's a bit early for that, but hey, whatever. So, what'll it be? Up to you. Hey, Law, anything in particular you want to eat? No. No idea. Just not carrots. That came as no surprise. There were no menus here at Cafe AROMA. Rook always just made whatever he felt like anyway, whether it was what the customer had ordered or not. So I guess it was my mistake to even ask the question in the first place. Dude, just what kind of guide are you anyhow? Rook asked in surprise. Well, yeah, someone like him who smothered his guests with all manner of unwanted attention would find me odd. Hey, little law. Want to be my guest from now on? I swear you'll have lots of fun. Sorry, no. Rook smiled wryly, as if to say, "Aw, that's too bad," and got busy behind the counter. Much to my surprise, Law smiled back, so obviously she was starting to warm up to him. A female guest, though. Just what was Dexter thinking anyway? Rook wondered aloud as he began washing some vegetables. This Dexter, by the way, was the supervisor to whom several nemenicides, including Rook and me, reported. Okay, so Rook is a nemenicide as well. That's interesting. So Rook is a cafe worker and nemenicide. Nemonicide. I keep pronouncing that wrong. And then I'm going to write down Dexter as well. Dexter is nemonicide. I need to get that right. Nemonicide. Say that 5 times fast. Nemonicide, 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 nemonicide. I don't know, maybe I can get it now. Probably not. I give myself pretty long odds on that one. But so we've got 5 characters, right? We've got Rook. No, we've got 4 characters. Yeah. Rook, Dexter, Law, and Black Iris. But we haven't actually met Dexter. We just know him by reputation. But they report to him. So that is interesting, though, because we know that this assignment, female male assignments are odd. That is not normal. So I was just noting that as well. I forgot to write that down earlier, but I did want to note that now so I don't forget that when I'm kind of, putting my thoughts together, kind of going to the next one, because he's noting that because when he walked in there, especially knowing that Black Iris is not exactly a social butterfly. He was looking at Law and he was like, is she your girlfriend? And because that's the only thing he could assume at that point, I guess, girlfriend or just a female friend. But the guest thing definitely did catch him by surprise. So, that's the second time that we are, shown that is something that is very odd. So that's definitely going to come into play later. So that's something to take note of, as that's going to be, I'm sure, a crucial point. Every single one of my assignments from Dexter himself, Law for instance, but isn't it official policy not to allow male-female pairings? Man, if that's changed, when am I going to be up for one? Most likely never. You, with a girl, we'd fear for her life. Heh, you're probably right. After all, if I got to live with a cutie like little Law here, there's no telling what might happen. Gee whiz, what a creep. That reminds me, hey little lady, if Black Iris here does something he shouldn't, you come running to me, you hear? Out of the frying pan and into the fire, indeed. By this time, Rook was slicing up some fillet of fish without having to even look down at whatever he was doing. Now, I wasn't so bad at cooking myself, but this guy really was a pro. And like most other top-flight chefs, he was a real eccentric. Case in point, he would rather give up his mnemonicide status than his cafe here. Although, he didn't have enough customers for this place to be viable. He'd probably be wildly successful if he ever opened a restaurant somewhere other than this godforsaken town, but he couldn't do that, and he had no inclination to either. Here you go. He put gargantuan fish and vegetable burgers grilled to perfection before each of us. Laws looked almost as big as her head, but she bravely grabbed it with 2 hands and started digging in nonetheless. And she dug in with total gusto. The look of delight on her face was just fascinating. And she'd get mad if I stared at her for any longer, so I turned my attention to my own food. Rook watched us eating for a bit, and, once he was satisfied that we were satisfied, began grinding some coffee beans. By hand. I'd never seen him do it any other way. Soon the aroma of fresh ground coffee filled the air. It was so wonderful, in fact, that it made Law look up from her burger. Coffee? Wait a second. The way she said that, it was as if this was the first time she'd ever even encountered the stuff. Okay, the trolley thing I could explain away, but this? Curiouser and curiouser. Nah, not coffee at all. This, little lady, is what we call espresso. Although Black Iris, well, he can't get that through his skull. I tried, I tell ya. Is that different from coffee? Totally. The way the beans are roasted, that's how they're pressed, how much caffeine there is, how it tastes, all different. But a barbarian like Black Iris here would never understand that. Rook pulled the lever on his espresso machine as he grumbled. Then, after a calculated pause, he pulled the lever again. No grumbles this time around. 2 demi-tasses, not really sure what that word is, each filled with this wonderful smelling dark liquid, materialized before us soon thereafter. Here you go. Sweet for the sweet, La. The cafe mocha's got your name on it. The usual cafe corretto for you, Black Iris. Impeccable timing, as usual. Since we'd both just finished our burgers, La picked up her demi-tasse gingerly, as if it were the most delicate thing in the world, and breathed in the rising vapors. Smells good. Of course, this is my specialty, see? Now, Rook was always this way with the ladies, but today he seemed to be even more effervescent than usual. Then again, Law wasn't brushing him off the way that most women did, so maybe that was it. Oh, right, Black Iris got an assignment, and not from Dexter, consultation requisition for a high-level mnemonicide. Lucky you. You've been tapped. Tapped? Wait, I'm currently with guest. It's not safe or legal to double up like that. Come to think of it, yeah. I wonder how come Dexter didn't tell me you were with guest anyway. He's usually really good about that. Tapped. I wonder. He's got special assignment and tapped. So I wonder exactly. Presumably, we're about to find out what exactly those words mean, or if that means he's going to have another guest. We're going to find out what all that means. Probably just a communications breakdown. Anyway, relay my regrets for me, will you? Rook froze, then shot me this half sheepish, half evil look. He and I had been colleagues for long enough that I knew what this meant. He'd screwed me over. Aha! No choice, man. I, had to agree. Let's just say this new client is well connected. While Rook himself was a competent enough mnemonicide, his true talent in that arena was as a fence. He ran a black market brokerage that matched mnemonicides with prospective guests outside of official channels. It was all strictly hush-hush. None of us had said a thing about it to Dexter, and he hadn't asked. Our clients were diverse, but they all had one thing in common. They were rich and powerful. Okay, so Rook is also a fence. So he's a cook, cook/cafe owner, mnemonicide, but his real talent is in being a fence. Black market. Interesting. That is very interesting. I had no idea where Rook found the time to own and operate this fine and unprofitable restaurant, given everything else he did. I suppose that made him something of a workaholic. This case'll be a cinch, I tell ya. You'll be done in 24 hours, I guarantee it. No idea why they insisted on a Class Alpha mnemonicide. Really? It was a rare pleasure to see him groveling and begging like this, except it wasn't that rare, and it was no pleasure at all this time around. I didn't care about this being a technical violation of the law so long as the pay was good, and it was, but right now Law was my guest. She had priority. That was something I couldn't violate. So I was gonna have to say no, but then, as if she could read my mind, Law casually said, "Don't mind, your call. But no worries, as you were." Her speech was as curt and to the point as usual, but there was something awfully ill at ease about the way she said it. What did she dislike? What, did she dislike being pampered the way the rules dictated guests must be? If that was so, she really was an odd one. Most guests who came here were so starved for attention at first that they grew addicted to our care. Wait, if Law really did dislike being waited on hand and foot, was that why she was assigned to a mnemonicide who wasn't particularly good to his guests? That brought up all sorts of possibilities that I didn't want to think about. All right, fine, but you owe me one. Oh, don't bother calling me at my apartment. I'm not there. I'm currently at the house on top of the hill on 8th Street, so send your client there. I'll make it up to you somehow. 8th, eh? Isn't that kinda out in the boonies? Nice and peaceful, actually. So much so that I've half a mind to move there permanently. Oh, get off it, man. You're not old enough to retire yet. Anyway, thanks a bunch for this. I'll have the client at your location by the day after tomorrow. Roger that. The three of us killed some time together after that. Law and I would have stayed longer, but it became obvious that the clouds were preparing to burst with snow, so we left in a hurry. Luckily, we found our way back to our place on 8th Street before the first flakes began pouring from the sky. Another day passed. One thing had become painfully apparent by now. Law was oblivious to the ways of the world. It was tempting to chalk it up to her being a stuck-up, spoiled little princess, but she wasn't stuck up. She wasn't spoiled, and she didn't put on airs like a princess. Generally, the guide is supposed to take care of all the housework. Law, however, was actively helping out in any way she could. She couldn't keep her hands to herself if she tried. and she wasn't trying anyhow. The weird thing was, it wasn't because she felt sorry about making me do all the work. The way her eyes glistened, the way she skipped and hopped about, it was obvious that she was having the time of her life. There were some ways in which this came as a relief. I had not, for instance, been looking forward to the prospect of doing a girl's laundry, so obviously I was more than happy to let La take care of it. Well, that is, other than the fact that she had no idea how to operate a washing machine. It looks like it just skipped a page on me there. I definitely did not click that. I can remember clearly how she stared at it the first time around, tried to figure it out for herself. After a long time indeed, she came running to me defeated. Is there any way to go back? I don't think there is. I definitely did not click. That is a real bummer. I really want to know what the heck that last frame was. That's terrible. Yeah, you get about there and help. Fortunately, it was it hopefully was up there for, well, actually it probably didn't get all the text up there by the time it advanced. I'll be able to get at least some of that text in playback, and when I edit it, I'll try to slow that down as much as possible so we can get it so we can get as much of that text in there, and you can have that, and you can read as much of it that got shown as possible. Let me go ahead and make a note of that. That's a bummer. I hope that doesn't do that very often, because you can miss something key. Because I don't know what, I definitely don't know what she stared at now. You know, and I guess we're just going to go on here because I don't know how to go back. That's a bummer. When I told her which buttons to press, her eyes lit up and off she went. Trial, error, trial again, success. Such were the patterns of that day. Now it was around time for this other guest to arrive. I hadn't been able to take Law out anywhere yesterday, just in case Rook might need to get a hold of me. I'd probably be stuck here today too. After all, if I really only had one day with this guest, finding and obliterating his psyche corrosion was going to be priority number one. Now, I had expected that Law would be bored out of her mind, but she never had a word of displeasure for me. In fact, she seemed to be enjoying herself, judging from the spring in her step and the twinkle in her eye. Every so often, though, she would come to me with loneliness and loss written all over her face, and she would stay by my side in silence for hours. If it were not for these times, it would have been almost impossible to believe that she was afflicted with the dolor at all. I heard someone knocking on our door as I was cleaning up after breakfast. It just did it again! I don't know what's going on here. I mean, I am not clicking twice. I am cleanly and crisply clicking one time here to advance this. This is ridiculous. that they don't let you go back. I mean, you can right click here, right? And you can save, load, view mode, windowed, full screen. You do not have the ability to go back. Which is just a terrible situation. But that being said, I'm not entirely certain. I was kind of thinking that they would divide this into chapters, and maybe they do. Maybe they do, but we had the prologue, and then they had they had one written out, which was, I think the title on it was Of a Town Where It Snows and the Story Begins, which was where we ended the first video. But we've read here for pretty much an hour straight, and right now we've got, I immediately abandoned my dishwashing, rushed to answer, but by the time I rounded the corner in the foyer, he had already started knocking again. So there's, I guess his other guest has come and started knocking on the door. So I think we've come to a pretty good place to take a break for this video. So I don't know if we get chapter breaks in this novel or not. That remains to be seen. I mean, heck, we might be 1 or 2 slides away from one, and if that's the case, then I'll probably try to break up the videos in that fashion going forward. But right now, I think that this is a good place to break based on our pacing, because we're about to meet his new guest. We have encountered a lot here. We've learned about the fact that the male-female assignments, I think that's probably the main thing we've learned. The male-female assignments are very strange. We've also learned that you don't get another assignment when you are assigned a guest, and that it's actually illegal, and that his friend Rook has kind of hooked this up under the table to get him some extra money, but Rook didn't know that he was on assignment, or would not have done that, because he would only do that if it was during, I guess, his downtime or while he was unassigned, because I guess maybe they don't want to get in trouble, or maybe even they have some kind of code of ethics about them. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that. But either way, that's kind of interesting. We may end up meeting Dexter a little bit later. So we've got 4 characters that we met. Obviously, it seems like we are on the verge of meeting someone else very shortly. The client. We've got two frames that we completely missed due to a glitch. Just skipping a scene there, or skipping a little bit, and I can guarantee you that I did not double click. That did not happen. It's just doing that, and that's terrible. I'm gonna look online and see if there is a way to skip back, and that I just don't know it. And if there is a way to do that, then that's gonna behoove us going forward. In editing, I'm going to try to make it so we can get any of that in there that we possibly can. I'll slow those frames down as much as I possibly can, because that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. I mean, it just kind of sucks. It's like when that's all you've got is text. It sucks when it takes that away from you. But either way, we do have a lot here. We do have a lot to work with in terms of our story here, and it is moving along, and we are learning a little bit more about our characters. It's kind of interesting how I had drawn some conclusions based on what I had got in the prologue that were just kind of proven wrong. you know, like the gender of Black Iris. That's kind of funny. But anyway, it's, you know, as we proceed, I guess we'll probably learn a lot more stuff. But all of that being said, I think we are going to take a break here for this one. So if you liked this video, then go ahead and drop it a like. And if you liked it a lot and you want to see the rest of this visual novel read through, then go ahead and like this video. And if you want to see anything else that I may be playing on my channel and you are not already subscribed, then go ahead and subscribe as well if you are so inclined. But regardless, as always, thanks for watching. And we are going to be picking up right here next time. Boom, 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 boom.